It's like after the Trump win, we might be witnessing hell freezing over right now because for some reason, all of these leftists who have spent years fighting against this man and working against this man are now all scrambling to meet with him. The question is why? What are their motivations? Let's get into it. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. I appreciate you being here, whether this is the first time you have clicked on one of my videos or you are a returning supporter. Please hit the thumbs up button, make sure that you're subscribed, and also turn on your notifications so that you never miss out on a conversation like the one we're about to have. So it's been big news over the last couple days all over social media that Mark Zuckerberg initiated a meeting with Donald Trump. Trump accepted the invitation, and the two had a meeting at Mar-A-Lago. Now, as I said, this kind of feels like hell is freezing over because I don't know about you guys, Mark Zuckerberg sitting down for a meeting with Donald Trump was not on my bingo card. So it's interesting to see this unfolding. I probably have a lot of the same questions that you do, but let's just kind of go through how this all played out. And then I do want to discuss what my theories are about what the motivating factors between both parties might be. So this is Stephen Miller confirming that the meeting happened and explaining why Donald Trump accepted the invitation.
Mark Zuckerberg has been very clear about his desire to be a supporter of and a participant in this change that we're seeing all around America, all around the world with this reform movement that Donald Trump is leading. Mark Zuckerberg, like so many business leaders, understand that President Trump is an agent of change, an agent of prosperity.
Right.
And so business leaders, CEOs everywhere, they want to be an element, a supporter, a booster of making our economy prosperous, delivering for American workers, and making sure that America is the most powerful, wealthiest, freest nation on the face of the earth. So we'll see what comes of that. Yeah. And Mark, obviously, he has his own interests, and he has his own company, and he has his own agenda, but he's made clear that he wants to support the national renewal of America under President Trump's leadership.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't hear so much talk about wanting to do the right thing and support free speech as much as I heard about wanting to be part of the prosperity of America and not have the incoming administration affect your bottom line. Someone who is a supporter of capitalism, I can't criticize that motivation, but as far as being a clear supporter of Trump and his vision for the country, that's something that has not been clear, especially when it comes to Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, and this is wild to me because if Trump was this massive threat that everybody on the left has painted him to be as the embodiment of Hitler in modern times, as has been echoed nonstop by every liberal with a platform over the last few years, why would these people be so willing to sit down with him and try to have a working relationship and putting the idea out there that they can find common ground with this person? Because I don't know about you guys, but I would imagine it would be difficult to find common ground with somebody if you have spent years painting him as worse than Mao and worse than Stalin. What could you possibly have in common with somebody if that's who you truly believe they are? Let's dive in a little bit further into how this all played out. According to this article, it says Mark Zuckerberg dines with Trump at Mar-a-Lago after pushing for meeting to discuss new administration. Grateful for the invitation. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg dined with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago after reportedly requesting the meeting with the president-elect to discuss the incoming administration Wednesday. It's an important time for the future of American innovation. Mark was grateful for the invitation to join President Trump for dinner and the opportunity to meet with members of his team about the incoming administration, a Meta spokesperson said in a statement provided to the Post. President-elect and Facebook creator largely exchanged pleasantries during their meeting, and Zuckerberg congratulated Trump on his election day victory, the outlet reported. Earlier this year, Trump, 78, described Facebook as a true enemy of the people, claiming that Zuckerberg's company cheated in the last election. Trump appeared to be referring to the $400 million plus Zuckerberg spent in the 2020 cycle to help finance local elections. The so-called Zuckerbucks initiative was roundly criticized by Republicans as an attempt to influence the 2020 vote. The Meta CEO pledged in an August letter to the House Judiciary Committee that while his motives were nonpartisan, he wouldn't be making a similar contribution in 2024. You have to wonder what Mark Zuckerberg is referring to when he's talking about this new reform of America, because to me, this is getting back to the respect of free speech and the respect of freedom of information and allowing people to discuss things openly without being censored and allowing people access to both sides of the conversation without being suspended for sharing things that don't align with a particular agenda. To me, the reform he's talking about is truly just getting back to our constitutional rights of free speech. So I'm glad that he is supportive of that. But I think it's clear that neither of these people have a whole lot of trust in each other. And as such, this isn't about creating a relationship where either of them forget how they feel about each other. But as I said, after news circulated that Micah Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough of MSNBC met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago as well, on Trump's end, I truly think that this is about keeping your friends close and your enemies closer. Trump is a businessman, and he has had to create working relationships all of his life with people that he probably did not get along with and who did not agree with him, or with people who weren't necessarily all that trustworthy. Sitting down and meeting with someone doesn't mean that there's this automatic establishment of trust or that anything negative that has happened in the past is going to be forgotten and it's going to be swept under the rug. And the general consensus across the board is that we cannot forget who Mark Zuckerberg is and what he has allowed to happen on his platform and what he has facilitated and how he has betrayed people over and over and over again. This is a clip of Kash Patel reminding us of that.
Zuckerberg is a fraud, pretending to care about American democracy and the election. This guy spent $400 million last election cycle, and I don't care what he says, he is going to spend money somehow, some way in this election cycle. And let's put that aside. He owns one of the largest social media companies on earth in Facebook, Meta, and Instagram. I didn't hear the CEO and owner, Mark Zuckerberg, come out and say, I guarantee you my companies will not participate in censorship at the behest of the FBI or anyone else in the federal government, like we did in the last two elections, like we did with Hunter Biden's laptop, like we did with the 51 Intel letter. He could have said that, but he didn't because he wants it to happen. And as a sort of proactive, preemptive move to say, oh, I told you so, he came out to the media and said, oh, my bad, I'm sorry. But it doesn't matter to these guys because they're going to go past November 5th. And if they get their way and Harris is awarded the victory, they're just going to be like, nothing to see here. And if Donald Trump wins, they'll come back and say, see, our companies tried to comply, but it's BS. And Zuckerberg is the biggest fraud in big business.
You guys are going to have to let me know what you think of this because, as I said, it's not like things are just going to get swept under the rug. And I get that people are going to be concerned about these meetings and worried that perhaps Trump hasn't learned his lesson or that he's being naive and too willing to forgive. And I hear that, but I don't think that that's what this is all about. From Zuckerberg's perspective, I think that there was a lot of pressure from the left to censor information and to work for their side of politics and to do their bidding. And I think that that's undeniable at this point. I think that on some level, there's a good chance that Zuckerberg didn't know how to say no to these people, or perhaps thought that working with them wouldn't come back to bite him in the butt, or perhaps he really believed in what these people were doing. And I think we saw some of that same sentiment from Twitter's former owner, Jack Dorsey, after Elon Musk purchased the platform. It was almost like there was a sense of relief from him that he was no longer under the thumb of these people. And I'm not excusing them in any way. Obviously had the power to refuse these deals and to refuse to work with the Democrat Party at any point, and they chose not to. I think that there is more to the situation than meets the eye. I think it goes without saying that there's a lot of bullying and intimidation in politics in general, but particularly from the left, and they're getting people to do things that they wouldn't normally do, and that eventually they might come to regret. And regardless of the reasoning for their choices, there obviously needs to be accountability. So we'll see what happens. From Trump's perspective, I think at least part of this working relationship, aside from keep your friends close and your enemies closer, might be to get inside information on these people. The best way for Trump and his team to find out just how extensive this election interference was and who all of the major players were in it, it's going to have a working relationship with the guy who has access to all of that information. And if Zuckerberg is willing to build that bridge, then it not only benefits Trump to accept it, but it benefits us as well. What has happened over the last few years with the relentless censorship by the left and using social media platforms to push a very specific political agenda to protect propaganda and to silence truth, that can never happen again. This is not just about restoring free speech, but it's about establishing consequences for anyone on the right or the left who tries to silence speech, especially when it comes to matters that could impact how people vote. We need access to everything. Despite what the left thinks, we are capable of assessing the information for ourselves. Of all of the decisions that we make, one of the most important things to have information on before making that decision is voting. You need to be informed from both sides. And we cannot have these platforms pushing us in a particular direction that's absent of perspectives from opposing sides of the aisle. And honestly, not having that control and watching someone like Mark Zuckerberg officially remove himself from the grasp of the Democrats is probably the most terrifying thing to them. They need us to live in an echo chamber in order to have support. They can't have us thinking for ourselves and coming to our own conclusions. They want to provide the information, tell us what to think about it, and have us come to their conclusion, and then to be too afraid of other views to even listen to them. And the fact that that's what they need in order to win tells us exactly how bad their ideas are and that their ideas can't stand up to any criticism or any pushback, which is why they don't want us to be exposed to pushback. It's a very interesting development to see this meeting happen. I think a lot of people are hoping and praying that Trump knows what he's doing. And I honestly think that he does, but we'll see what happens. I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Again, please hit the thumbs up button. Make sure that you are subscribed. I am so close to that 10,000 subscriber mark, and I would love your help in reaching it. If you would like to support the channel in other ways, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below. All donations help me to grow this channel and to bring more content to you. But real guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.